on Australian of the Years, on nominees, honorees, people getting gongs. Australia Day is one for celebrating the success of our multiculturalism. After all, we're a country built in part thanks to thousands of migrants who have come to these shores. Hashim Abdul Rahman is a Canberran who has both welcomed those migrants to the capital, as well as seeing over their final moments and eternal farewells. As an educator in Islamic studies, member of community organisations like Rotary, conductor of Muslim burial rites, and a volunteer in pastoral care, Hashim's experience is one woven into the multicultural fabric of Canberra. He's been awarded an OAM and joins you now. Hashim, good morning and congratulations.
Good morning, James, and good morning, listeners. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum to you. I want to start at what I admit is a little while ago, but I think it serves us to tell your story. President of the Malaysia Club in the 1970s. Set the scene for me of the Malaysian community of 1970s.
Well, I came to Canberra in 1969. Then, of course, there were very few Malaysian residents in Canberra. So I was firstly involved with the Muslim community. Even then, there were maybe less than 200 Muslims. So my first involvement with community work was with the Muslims. It was until later that a lot of Malaysians came to settle here as doctors, as school teachers, and I felt there was need to bring them together from time to time to remember our cultural aspects of Malaysian culture. And I formed the Australian Malaysian Society, which also brought in Australians who had worked in Malaysia, who have business interests in Malaysia, together. So we used to meet every so often, to mingle among ourselves.
How's the Muslim community in Canberra changed in those decades, Hashim?
A lot. When I first came, there were only about 200 Muslims in Canberra, mainly members of the diplomatic mission, Muslim diplomatic missions. And the Canberra Mosque in Yarra, which still stands today, was built in 1960 by three embassies, the Indonesian, Malaysian, and Pakistan. So when I came, it was 9 years later after the mosque had been built and was hardly used. And more and more Muslim migrants were coming into Canberra. Initially, they were not very highly qualified. So I felt, again, there was need to form an association, which I established in 1972, the ACT Islamic Society. The idea was mainly to look after them, and the major problem then was, of course, there was no halal meat. So I, again, with a couple of friends, initiated discussion with the authorities in the federal government. And in 1974, the government made it legal for halal slaughtering. So it was a big achievement. And also during that time, when people died, especially Muslims, they were just buried together with everyone else. So at that stage, the Canberra Cemetery, the one in Mitchell now, was just in development stage. So again, with a couple of friends, we took up a discussion with them and resulted in what you see today. Their plots designated to each religious followers.
Yeah, and Hashim, I want to ask you about that process in just a tick. Hashim Abdul Rahman is who you're listening to on ABC Canberra Breakfast. It's 10 to 8. He's received an OAM for his work in the community here towards the betterment of our multiculturalism. Hashim, you've touched on it there, but you have performed funeral and burial rites for decades for Muslims. How would you describe that experience?
I'm not the only person, of course. We have two teams for the women and for the men. For the men, I work together with 2 or 3 others. When a Muslim dies, we need to do a proper washing and shrouding before we put in a coffin, take to the mosque for final prayer, and then to the cemetery for burial. So there's certain requirements. And usually we've been doing this process at the hospitals if the deceased passed away in the hospitals. If they pass away at home, then we would use the funeral parlor as a place for doing our ritual.
That sounds like quite a privilege, Hashim. How has it, and you've been doing it for some time, how has it affected you personally?
I suppose, I started doing this when I was in Malaysia before I came here. When I came here, there were other people who were more involved than me. I only came into doing this about maybe 15 years ago. Not everyone can do it, I suppose. We are worried that there are only 3 of us doing it at the moment. We need some more to join us. But, we train people, but people are very reluctant because you meet all sorts of bodies, normal, death, it could be from accident, and so on. So it takes a bit to be able to handle.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I credit to you that you've done it for such a long time. You also volunteer your time to contribute to pastoral care. You've done it for about 5 or 6 years at Canberra Hospital. What have you learned along the way from that experience?
I suppose that started when my late wife was a patient at the hospital. She was suffering from cancer. And I felt there was need for Muslim pastoral carer to be visiting Muslim patients. So the Islamic Society had a negotiation with the Canberra Hospital, and then we were more or less accredited to undertake that role. Of course, we had to go through special training, and again we have women as well as men doing this duty. But always it is very difficult for people to spend time. I'm fortunate because I've been retired for 23 years now, so I have all the time. That's not quite true because I do get involved in so many things.
Yeah, some people say that, don't they? That retirement's busy. I wish I could go back to work and just have endless meetings all day. I'm so slammed. Hashim, Abdul Rahman is who you're listening to, and you can probably hear why listening to this interview. He's been awarded an OAM this Australia Day. It's for his contribution to many things, and broadly speaking, his contribution to the multiculturalism that we enjoy here in Canberra. Hashim, on that multiculturalism, you teach Arabic and Quranic studies. What kind of demand is there for that kind of learnings? Who's ringing you up asking to be taught Arabic or about the Quran?
Firstly, I'm not a teacher of Arabic. I teach Quran to children as well as adults. I do it voluntarily at my own home. I have presently about 13 students, and I teach them every second Sunday. And I do accept new people, so I do as best as I can. I'm not a qualified, so to say, teacher of the Quran, but what I know, I pass on to my students.
And we've been talking, Hashim, about what is Australia's national dish. It's shaping as the sausage sizzle. And I know you've been part of Rotary Club Canberra. I'm sure you've sizzled many a sausage in your time as part of that.
Yes.
Yeah. In fact, you're probably an expert, Hashim. Would you care to estimate a number of sausages that you've sizzled in your time with Rotary?
Maybe thousands.
Thousands.
But on one occasion, I introduced something different.
Okay.
I think it was at the Canberra York Club. I had, I can't think of it.
Was it a vegetarian option, Hashim?
No, vegetarian. It was a soup that you prepare, like
Oh, right.
And also would sit together, and so it's not sizzle, but it was something Asian with noodles and
Oh,
seafood.
laksa, perhaps.
No laksa. Oh dear. Steamboat.
Ah, right. Yes. Delicious.
So there was a change when I was. That year I was the president of the Rotary Club.
Look, the time has run out for our chat, Hashim, and we could talk all day. That I'm sure you've had so many more experiences that you'd like to share. But thank you for joining us on Breakfast this morning, and congratulations.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Hashim Abdul Rahman, OAM, as you can hear. They're at the beginning of many migrants' lives, and they're very gracefully at the end too.